Hello guys, my name is Nash. Welcome to Thursday Tales of Terror. TTT. Today we'll be talking about the very unfortunate and painful death of a Tibetan woman who goes by the name of Lamu on social media. Lamu was a very well-loved social media star who runs a popular Douyin account. For those of you who don't know what Douyin is, it's basically TikTok in China. Lamu would often upload clips to share about her life and the Sichuan countryside. On the 14th of September 2020, Lamu was live streaming at home as usual when her ex-husband suddenly appeared from behind her, drenched her in gasoline and set her on fire. She was sent to the hospital in critical condition and unfortunately succumbed to her injuries and passed away 16 days after the attack. She was only 30 years old. Lamu's death caused an uproar in China and sparked discussion around the topic of physical violence and abuse against women. Why did her ex-husband set her on fire? Could this have been prevented? Let's dive in. Lamu was born in the year 1990 and her real name was Amuchu. Lamu was from a remote village in the region of Aba called Ngaba by Tibetans. It is a very small and quiet town with about 2,000 residents. Born in poverty, she made a living picking herbs in the mountains with her father. As a child, she was kind and optimistic. Around May 2018, Lamu created a Douyin account and that's when she referred to herself as Lamu. In Tibetan, Lamu means fairy, and she was very befitting of the name. It's no surprise as to why she would have such a large number of followers on her Douyin account, as she was a very beautiful girl. She had huge sparkling eyes and those really cute dimples whenever she smiled. Whenever she can, she would record about her daily life and post it online. She would show what it was like to be living and working in the Sichuan countryside, like picking herbs and collecting walnuts. She would also record herself cooking, singing, lip-syncing, and dancing to songs in traditional Tibetan clothing. Sometimes her two sons, her father, and her grandmother would appear in her videos as well. She's not shy about expressing her emotions online, so there are videos where you can see her vulnerable side. Many people have asked her before, why don't you go to the big city where opportunities are abundant, where you can earn more and live comfortably? But Lamu, she was a very kind and filial daughter. It's not that she doesn't like the big city life, but because she wanted to be with her father. Lamu's mother is no longer around and her father has been in poor health, so she really wanted to take care of him. She also wanted to share more beautiful things that her followers might not be able to see in the city. She loved sharing whatever knowledge she had with her followers. During the cold season, the national highway would have snow on the roads, which are very dangerous for cars. Workers were dispatched to the area to sprinkle salt as it helps prevent ice forming on the pavement. Lamu would voluntarily join these workers in sprinkling salt, and she would use her online platform to remind drivers to be careful, to slow down while driving. During the epidemic, Lamu made videos to cheer for people to look on the brighter side of life. And because she was very transparent with her followers, she even did her video barefaced and was praised for it. Sometimes, she would also show her viewers the amount of money she earned from a hard day's work at the mountains. Because she was so hardworking, passionate, and honest, the young lady gained many followers over time. From the day she uploaded her first video, which was on the 2nd of May 2018, to her last video on September 14, 2020, Lamu had uploaded a total of 205 videos, gaining about 242,000 followers. She was very diligent with her uploads and sometimes she would even do live streams. For additional income, she also sells the walnuts she picked around her hometown. On the 1st of September 2020, Lamu uploaded a short clip telling viewers that she'll be heading to the mountain with her father. She mentioned that this was a good season for them to collect herbs. Now, going up to the mountain is not an easy task. In fact, it's very troublesome. So each time they head to the mountains, they would have to stay there for several days. Once they managed to dig and collect a good amount of herbs, they will then make their way down. Lamu and her father live in the forest where they made their own tent. And this tent was made using just plastic sheeting. Because they have to stay in the mountains for a while, they made sure to bring enough food with them. At least enough for half a month because they never really know how long they're going to be there for. Collecting herbs is also not easy. It's not just picking them up. You have to dig for them and digging is a lot of hard work. Sometimes in a day you can dig up to several kilograms worth of herbs and sometimes nothing. And you don't earn a lot from selling them as well. But this was her family's main source of income. During the period when she and her father lived in the mountains, Lamu would still post videos almost every day. She shared with her viewers how she prepared her meals, how to pick herbs, how to go about in the mountains, and more. On the 13th of September 2020, after 13 days of hard work at the mountains, she was finally preparing to head back home with her father. She and her father managed to collect plenty of herbs and ingredients. They packed the herbs in 2 very huge sacks and they placed the sacks on a wooden platform. Lamu secured everything with a rope and slowly pulled it down the mountain, and she was very happy. On the 14th of September 2020, Lamu uploaded what would be her last video. She was dressed in Tibetan clothing and she was very cheerful in the video as usual. After spending more than 10 days on the mountain, she was excited to be back home. So at around 8 p.m, she went live to share with her followers about her time spent on the mountain and how she felt throughout. She was sitting in the kitchen live streaming and there were about 400 people watching. But as soon as her live stream began, a man suddenly barged in the house and Lamu started screaming. The screen then went dark. Viewers could hear Lamu screaming out loud for her dad and brother-in-law. Papa, 姐夫. And then the live stream got disconnected. Lamu's fans were so worried and they had no clue what was happening. Many of them left comments on Lamu's videos asking for her well-being and whereabouts, but there was no response. Not until 3 days later on the 17th of September 2020. But it wasn't Lamu, it was Lamu's sister. Lamu's sister posted an update on Lamu's Douyin account. To all the people who love Lamu, I am her elder sister. Because her ex-husband burned my sister with gasoline, she's fighting for her life in the intensive care unit and is still in critical condition. She needs to be transferred to another hospital urgently and the medical expenses are about 1 million yuan. Please help to donate if you can and save my poor sister. Please help her get through this. Thank you everyone. After this clip was uploaded by her sister, it attracted a lot of attention and went viral. Not long after, she explained to the media what exactly happened that night to her sister. Lamu's home is divided into 2 levels, the upper and lower floors. On the upper floor lived Lamu and her father. The lower floor lived her sister and her sister's husband. At the time, Lamu's brother-in-law and father were at home. She didn't want to disturb them, so she did her live stream in the kitchen. Not long after she started her live stream, her ex-husband, whose name was Tang Lu, rode a motorcycle down to where she lived. At the back of his motorcycle was a huge gasoline tin weighing at least 20 kilograms. He also carried knives with him. Tang Lu barged into the house and went straight to the kitchen. He then doused Lamu with gasoline. She was so shocked and frightened and she immediately shouted for her father and her brother-in-law. When the two rushed into the kitchen, they saw that Lamu was fully drenched with gasoline. In one hand, Tang Lu was holding a knife to her neck and in another, he was holding a lighter. Lamu was shivering in fear, but even at that point, she still screamed for her father to leave. Papa, faster run away, he's going to blow me up. Lamu's father and brother-in-law didn't want to agitate Tang Lu, so they quickly left the house. They wanted to call the police, but their phones were in the house, so they rushed back in to get the phone. They could hear Lamu crying and pleading, and before they could even call for the police, the house was already on fire, and the fire was spreading at a very fast rate. Then the sound of an explosion could be heard. Tang Lu himself was also burned, but he managed to escape. Because the explosion was so loud, neighbors hurried over to help. When Lamu was being rescued, she was already in critical condition. She was immediately rushed to Aba Autonomous Prefecture People's Hospital. More than 90% of her body was burned. The only part of her body that had some skin left was her right chest, and it's just a very small part. When her sister visited her at the hospital a few hours later, her sister said that Lamu's body was covered in burns and she was struggling to breathe. She looked like the piece of charcoal. Apart from the burns, she also had 6 to 7 stab wounds. Her forehead injury was so deep that you could almost see the bone. Because her condition was very serious, she needed to be transferred to another hospital as the current hospital has limited medical facilities. The doctor strongly suggested for her to be transferred to Chengdu for treatment. The cost of the treatment was very expensive, and as you may know, her family doesn't earn much from picking herbs or selling walnuts. But they were not going to give up in trying trying to save Lamu, so her father launched a fundraising campaign of 1 million yuan on the internet. Lamu's unfortunate tragedy garnered a lot of attention, and not long after, the family succeeded in raising the 1 million yuan. The treatment, however, was not looking very optimistic. Lamu's burn was too severe. Her face and body was completely charred. On the 30th of September 2020, on the eve of National Day, Lamu, who had been going for intensive treatment for half a month, very sadly passed away. Lamu's ex-husband Tang Lu was fortunately arrested while Lamu was receiving treatment. The question that was on everyone's mind was, Lamu and Tang Lu had already divorced, so what exactly was the reason that he had to go through such extremes to kill his wife? It's unclear when she actually met Tang Lu, but according to reports, she married Tang Lu when she was 18 years old. They had been together for a long time, more than a decade, and had 2 sons. In fact, not long after they got married, bruises were often seen on her face. Lamu didn't want to tell her family about what happened because she didn't want them to worry. She was also afraid to go out because of the visible bruises. After much prompting by her sister, Lamu eventually admitted that it was her husband Tang Lu who beat her. Lamu's sister then told their mother about it, and their mother went to confront him. Each time this happened, Tang Lu would always apologize to Lamu, but nothing changed. It was a very abusive and toxic relationship and a very vicious cycle. He would beat her and apologize after, and she would forgive him, repeating the cycle again and again. Lamu's father, on the other hand, was a very gentle and soft-spoken man. He's not someone who likes to talk a lot, so he didn't really know how to address the situation. Lamu's mother was usually the one that would speak up for the family. Tang Lu, he was a little afraid of his mother-in-law. In 2011, however, Lamu's mother was diagnosed with cancer, and the family was struggling to pay for her treatment. In less than a year, Lamu's mother passed away. The only person who dared to speak up for Lamu is now gone. Tang Lu now could do whatever he wanted. Before that, when Lamu's mother was still around, he would beat her behind closed doors, but now he would do it openly. Once, there was a festival celebration, and in front of relatives, Tang Lu just hit her. But right after hitting her, he knelt down to apologize and said he won't do it again. A few days later, new injuries can be seen on Lamu. He didn't keep his word. In 2016, Lamu was pregnant with a second child. Her family asked her, "What if Tang Lu gets abusive towards you again? What will you do?" Lamu said she has faith in her husband. She believed that he would change for the baby. Right after she gave birth, he was still abusive, and in fact, he got worse. In March 2020, Tang Lu was in a really bad mood because he lost his money to gambling. In front of their kids, he picked up a wooden bench and smashed it on her. Lamu used her hand to shield herself, and that resulted in her elbow being broken. With injuries all over her body, she ran back to her family's house. After this incident, she finally realized that enough was enough. This is not how she wanted her life to be. This cannot go on. So in May 2020, she made her mind to divorce Tang Lu. Their eldest son would follow Lamu, and their youngest would follow Tang Lu. But it wasn't long till Lamu would find Tang Lu on his knees again, begging for forgiveness. He even swore to her that he will never lay his hands on her ever again. This time round, Lamu refused to forgive him. Tang Lu then held a kitchen knife to his youngest son's neck. He told her that if she doesn't remarry him, they will all die. Lamu didn't really have much of a choice. After she agreed to remarry him, things still didn't improve. He somehow became more arrogant. He continued laying his hands on Lamu, and he also hurt her sister too. Once, Lamu was so afraid of getting beaten by Tang Lu, she actually hid herself so that he couldn't find her. Tang Lu then approached Lamu's sister to ask her for Lamu's whereabouts, but of course, her sister denied knowing anything. Angry, he punched Lamu's sister in the face. He punched so hard that her eye socket was fractured and she had to stay in the hospital for 3 months. Once more, Lamu insisted on a divorce. She was really angry that her husband actually had the audacity to attack her family members. She went to town and hired someone to write a divorce petition. In order to divorce her husband again, she had to forgo her custody of the 2 children. She agreed. Lamu's cousin then persuaded Lamu to find a job outside of their hometown. She told Lamu that their hometown is so small, it wouldn't be difficult for Tang Lu to find and harass her again. Rather than waiting to be beaten back at home, why not earn some money outside? As mentioned earlier, Lamu was a very filial daughter. She knows that her dad is weak and needs to be taken care of. She also thought about her children. If she leaves her hometown to work outside, it will be very difficult to see them too. In the end, she chose to stay. Now, after the horrible tragedy of Tang Lu burning his wife, the media interviewed Tang Lu's mother. Her opinion was that there were indeed some problems with the relationship, but she felt that Lamu opening her Douyin account to share about her life was not right. In the videos, Lamu was wearing Tibetan costumes and accessories to sing and dance, and the older generation might find this hard to understand. In a relatively backward environment, people from the older generation might think that her actions were inappropriate because they tend to be more reserved, and this behavior made Tang Lu feel ashamed. In the videos, Lamu also mentioned about her earnings and how she needed to work hard for her kids and dad, and by doing this, she was portraying Tang Lu in a bad light. The interactions Lamu had with her viewers made Tang Lu feel angry because she was too friendly. Tang Lu felt that she was spending way too much time on the internet, and he was aware that there were fans calling Lamu "dear baby," and he found this unacceptable. For me, I felt that Tang Lu's mother was trying to defend her son's actions. But Lamu endured 10 years of abuse from her husband Tang Lu. He believed that Lamu belonged to him and only him, and that he could do whatever he wanted with her. After the divorce, Tang Lu tried to find a girlfriend, but they would break up soon after. He realized that Lamu was really the one for him because she was so patient, so he wanted to remarry her again. But after the rejection, he saw how Lamu was so happy without him, posting about her daily life and smiling so cheerfully, and I guess that made him do what he did. On the 14th of October 2021, the court sentenced Tang Lu to death. On the 23rd of July 2022, his death sentence was executed. Lamu's father, on the other hand, was devastated. He was very used to a life with his daughter, always protecting him, working with him, taking care of him. Even when her life was at stake, she still wanted her father to be safe by asking him to run away. Lamu's funeral was held at a local temple on October 5th. The hashtag Lamu is cremated today received over 310 million views on Weibo. Now, if you're wondering why didn't Lamu report the abuse to the police, she did, several times in fact. When Tang Lu threatened to kill their son if Lamu didn't remarry him, she actually went to the police twice for help, but her requests were ignored. She went to the police again when her sister was being assaulted by Tang Lu, but police allegedly told them that this was a family matter. There was nothing that they could do. In the wake of Lamu's death, and despite censorship, Chinese netizens started speaking out against domestic violence, advocating for better laws and support systems for domestic abuse victims in China. Since 2016, when China enacted a law against domestic violence, more than 900 women have died at the hands of their husbands or partners, according to the women's rights group Beijing Equality. Domestic abuse was officially criminalized with China's first national law against domestic violence in 2016, but it is still a widespread problem, partly due to a general lack of public awareness of domestic abuse and police officers regarding it as a private family matter, downplaying its severity. It's very sad because this is not the first time I've talked about abuse by partners and the police only perceive it as family matters. I believe that this could all be prevented should the police step in and do something about it. Lamu was a very kind, caring and lovely girl. All she wanted to do in life was give her family a better life. It's very unfortunate that time and time again her requests for help were denied. My heart and prayers goes out to Lamu and her family and to those who love her. May Lamu rest in peace. And so we have come to an end for today's story. If you have anything to share, please let me know down in the comments below. As always, stay safe and I hope to see you guys again on Thursdays.